My name is Wole Adiloye, and I'm one of the leadership team at Crofton Baptist. It's a privilege to preach the gospel today from this often overlooked part of a small but well-known story in the Bible. When it we're in the third and penultimate week of a mini-series in which we're looking at a passage in the Bible, usually referred to as the parable of the prodigal son. Last week I was speaking to a niece in America who, noting that it was midnight in the UK, wished me a nearly tearful Happy Father's Day. Surprised but thankful, I apologized that it is not a date in my calendar or one I have registered in my consciousness. It seems, in my head at least, to have jealously crept into the calendar about 5 years ago, while Mother's Day has been celebrated all my life. I joked that maybe I only started deserving the wish about 5 years ago. I hasten to add that I woke up to several Father's Day cards and messages in the morning. Our Bible passage today is so full of testosterone. It seems mainly about men behaving poorly until they grow up to be conformed in the image of the Father. But the issues it raises are gender neutral. This parable of the prodigal son from Luke 15:11-32 is one of the three parables that Jesus tells an audience made up of two groups of men, primarily one group being the irreligious tax collectors and business people called sinners, the other group being the Bible-bashing religious leaders who complained that Jesus could not be an authentic rabbi as he hobnobs with sinners, i.e., he hobnobs with the other group in the audience. In this parable, Jesus talks about a man, a farmer, who has two sons with many employees and servants. The younger son one day does the sacrilegious. He negotiates with his father to pre-inherit him, and he goes off with half the family wealth to live a life of lavish indulgence in a distant land. Hard times hit, and is destitute. He returns home, a broken man, with a plea to his father that he may join the guild of workmen at the family farm. As the young man approaches home, father recognizes him by his gait, as he's in rags with no shoes on his feet. Father rushes out to meet him, envelopes him with an embrace, gets him a warm bath and hot food, puts new robes on him. Our pastor, Adrian, eloquently unpacked the story of the lost young son last week. What about the elder brother? Let me present the elder son's reality in present-day UK middle-class family context. A certain wealthy man owns a family business which he runs in a remote country village with his two sons and many paid employees and domestic staff. The younger son, usually the spoilt brat, comes to the dad. I have realized that this village life is not for me. I have made some contacts and there is an opportunity for me up in London. I would like to go, but I need money to set myself up there. Do you think you could downsize the family home and sell half the shares of the family business so that I can go off and make a life in London? Father is sad about the young man's choices, but accedes to his requests. They move to a smaller home, bringing a new investor to buy half of the business, and raises the cash to send the young man on his way. The whole matter is devastating to Dad, who seems to age suddenly and starts spending more time at home. Imagine you are the elder brother, chief of staff to the old man, the obedient and dutiful toiler who was not consulted but would traditionally be the sole inheritor of whatever is left of the other half on the demise of the father. Then, 5 years after, just when the family had adjusted to the new circumstances, you're on your way back from work. It's a small village, and you hear loud sounds of celebration music coming from your family home. These are people you know, domestic staff in your family home, standing around, watching from a distance. So you ask them, "What's happening?" "Oh, your misguided brother, the spoiled brat, he's come back. A pandemic has hit London, and there's a recession. He has been reckless and lost his money, and he's come back home. Your father has dressed him in his Savile Row suit and thrown a party. What would be your attitude?" Most of my friends ask this question, think that the elder brother's position is right and understandable. Let's dig deeper into this parable. No doubt, the audience here realize that Jesus likens the bad returning brother to the repentant so-called sinners, that is, the tax collectors, in front of him, while the good elder brother in the parable refers to the religious Pharisees. In my Yoruba culture, and in many African cultures, the role of the first son is cut out from birth. If a boy comes into the family late, third or later, the eldest daughter is brought up with that role. The first son is brought up to be a model son, a mini papa. As the children grow up, he's empowered to look out for the younger ones and keep them in line. The position is privileged and has authority attached to it. They're expected to be serious, exemplary, and dutiful. In turn, they are proud of this dutiful life, praised for it, but deep inside it could be an oppressive burden. They live in a bubble with everybody watching how they bear the family expectations for the next generation. Little wonder why Christian men would celebrate their elder children into church leadership and ministry. The burden of responsibility, living out others' expectations, frequently leaves a resentful and secretly jealous firstborn. Joy and resentment cannot coexist. Our text this morning speaks directly to the religious, the elder brothers in us, the ones who have dutifully given many years, a lifetime of obedient service, but may find it difficult to understand or enter the joy of the Father. I'm speaking mainly to my colleagues who are in the church, serving dutifully, but cannot see the reason why the Father in this parable has called out the village band, laid out the special silverware, and barbecued the fattened calf to celebrate an up to no good lazy brat of a brother. I grew up in a household, a big household, though it never felt so big. I am the third of 9 children. The first are 5 boys, hence I have had ample room to be the younger brother and even the elder brother. Born in Nigeria, I took my young family and traveled far from home against my father's preferred wish to find life in the distant land of the UK. Every part of this story has my story written into it. This is a story about family issues, intensely complicated relationships through which our Father teaches us about love. I have been blessed with elder brothers who would tear down walls to seek me out if I were lost. But we must focus on the subject of this parable, the angry elder brother who would not go in. He stays outside the door, contemplating his next move. He rejects home, disowns his father, but the father runs out to meet him too. with pleading words and an open invitation. What's his complaint in Jesus' words? But he answered his father. He said, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you," I'm reading from verse 29, "and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him." The choice of words is especially important to understand the place from which the elder brother speaks. First, he's very rude. He's very rude to the father in public space. You don't do that in that culture. All his choreographed control of many years is lost. Note his overwhelming bitterness, resentment, and anger. All these years I have slaved. If you work with and for people you care about, you do not call it slaving. Like it was then, in these days of the angry Black Lives Matter protests, slavery is not a word used lightly. You know the abuse, misuse, wickedness, and maltreatment that is this man's perception of his relationship with his father. There is no love lost there. "I never disobeyed your orders." That is, obedience was a burden, not an act of love or good judgment. In fact, he was silently jealous of the disobedient elder brother, whose life was carefree. "Your words were regarded as orders. I obeyed because I had to, not because it was to do to achieve our joint purpose or vision. You never even gave me a goat. That is, you were mean, never kind or generous to me. I could not celebrate. My life lacked material goods to have fun and celebrate. All the fun was out there, and it was misery here." This fellow was in a meltdown. The elder brother is lost in resentment. He's home, but he has not felt the love of his father, which was always laid at his feet. Jesus is telling the Pharisees that they are in the house of the Lord, but the burden of dutiful and fear-driven obedience has robbed them of the experience of joy in the love of God. Physically, he has been home, but spiritually lost. He has stayed home because it is the easier way for him to earn his inheritance. Perhaps if the elder brother realized how infinitely rich his father was, he might not be so insecure and might have focused more on that which is less material. After all, half of infinity is still infinity. He does not really know or love the essential character of his father. The younger brother is not so pretentious. He's interested in the money and not much else. The elder brother is similar. His methods are only different. He hides it under a cloud of hard work and a rigid sense of duty. There is this sense of competition. This son of yours, he disowns both his brother and his father. You give him what you have never offered me. I'm the good boy. You care more for the bad boy who chose prostitutes over you. He's jealous of the bad dude, his younger brother, who seems to have eaten his cake and still seems to have it. The elder brother's point is understandable and supported by our concepts of fairness and judgment, but it is built and propagated on wrong theology. Theology which suggests that our good deeds and moral rectitude could make us more deserving of God's love. Both the elder brother and the younger one are equally lost. The lostness of the younger one is easier to see, and the tough survival reality are there to drive him back home. The lostness of the elder brother is much harder to identify. The resentment is much deeper and harder to deal with. The lostness of the resentful saint is a dangerous place. What are the warning signs we see in the elder brother, and how do we examine ourselves for these signs? The book, The Prodigal God by Tim Keller, helpfully summarizes these signs as follows. 1. A deep anger. Verse 28, he became angry. Elder brothers believe that God owes them a comfortable and good life if they try hard and live up to standards. Secondly, a joyful and mechanical obedience. I've been slaving for you. Verse 29. Elder brothers obey God as a means to an end. But elder brothers find obedience virtually always a joyless, mechanical, slavish thing. As a result, thirdly, a coldness to younger brother types. This son of yours, the older son, will not even own his brother. Elder brothers are too disdainful of others who are not like themselves to be effective in evangelism. Elder brothers who pride themselves on their doctrinal and moral purity unavoidably feel superior to those who do not have these things. Also, an unforgiving, judgmental spirit. The elder brother does not want the father to forgive the younger brother. It is impossible to forgive someone if you feel, I would never do anything that bad. You have to be something of an elder brother to refuse to forgive. There is also a lack of assurance of the Father's love. Verse 29, you never threw me a party. As long as you are trying to earn your salvation by controlling God through your goodness, you will never be sure that you can be good enough. You'll never be sure you've been good enough. Let me share 3 signs that may suggest you might be in this place. Every time something goes wrong in your life, you wonder if it's a punishment. Another sign is irresolvable guilt. You can't be sure that you have repented deeply enough, so you beat yourself up over what you did. Thirdly, a lack of any sense of intimacy with God in your prayer life. You may pray a lot of prayers asking for things, but not sense His love. Note, Jesus lives an open-ended story. The Pharisees understand that the party in this parable is the feast of salvation. They are standing outside the light of the Father. Should their attitude to the younger brother be different? Yes, of course, it should be. These are Bible teachers who know their scripture. In Genesis 4:9, the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? I don't know, he replied. Am I my brother's keeper? Most of you know the rest of the story. I have a good elder brother who left the comfort of the father's side and came to look for me, the younger brother. He died the death that I deserve, so that I may freely go out to find my life in him, yet provide a way back home if I miss my way in the adventure. Mission always requires you to step out of the comfort zone. How do you find yourself in this story? I shall illustrate with my own experience. I came into contact with this book by Henry Newham, The Return of the Prodigal Son, 25 years ago. It was a Sunday evening churches together service in Peckham, and an impassioned minister, then from North Chim Baptist. His name, I remember, was Chris Lee. This book, every copy comes with this picture. An impassioned Chris Lee spoke about his experience reading that book, The Return of the Prodigal Son. I got a copy of the book, It was a transforming experience, and I studied it like my life depended on it. I found it a fascinating experience of self-analysis. Please take a moment to look at a picture of Rembrandt's painting. Every copy of the book, like I said, comes with one picture card to hold while you read through it. I spent hours studying it. See the glowing image of the aged father and his hands, the left hand of the father, the right hand of the mother. Look at the image. They are laid gently, holding close the kneeling, younger, sorry son. The light reflecting off the face of the elder brother who stands aloof. Then, shadowy onlookers. I saw in myself a little of each of these characters. The younger brother, the elder, the onlooker, while convicted that my purpose in life must be to strive to become like the father. I saw in myself the elder brother in church leadership, needing the help of a true brother to grow into a compassionate father. Over the succeeding 10 years, I would buy and give away at least 30 copies of the book and read everything else Newham had in print. This was 25 years ago. Colleagues who struggle with my stubbornness in church leadership and find difficult my positions on church discipline will realize where this comes from. It was truly life-changing. If you are listening to me on Sunday morning, the 28th of June, this message has a personal significance as I share it on the eve of my 65th birthday. I am the younger brother who left home, in distress to find my life and duty elsewhere. My father preferred for us to stay home in Nigeria, but I felt that the Lord was telling me to trust Him and go out of my comfort zone. Coming to the UK, the Lord showed me Peckham Park Road Baptist Church and told me that was my church. Surely I could not have heard right. I had never before attended a Baptist church, and they don't even know how to pray. This was the judgmental elder brother in me. I was to learn much better later. Working alongside others in Peckham, we learned much about the Lord who walks across His church, changing elder brothers and sending them out to go looking out in the world for their struggling younger brothers, to comfort them first with Christian social action and then with the gospel. I have not had to run back home with no shoes on my feet to my biological father since departed to be with the Lord. Not because of conduct without blemish, but for love without blame. By grace alone, I have run to my Heavenly Father in distress many times, and He has held me secure in His warm embrace. I kneel at His feet and feel the heartbeat of love. In these periods of Black Lives Matter protests, we find application brother issues, even in matters of race and social justice. We look back at issues of slavery and the generations of damage which has created tsunami-sized ripples which still reverberate. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, in Christ I should be. An elder brother sold his younger brother into slavery to acquire guns to dominate the neighboring community and sell more of them to the greedy white man on a boat. There is no difference between both slave traders. Even today, people surrender themselves into slavery and buy their way into people trafficking or perilous shipwrecks because of kleptomaniac third world political leaders. And the rich West creates trading rules that devalue their labor and collude with Luther rulers. Let us be the true elder brother by speaking out against injustice. COVID-19 might be a problem of the rich West and elites of poorer countries. Hunger, the lack of drinking water, and easily treated diseases kill off the poor before they reach the age at which they are particularly vulnerable to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. This is the evidence of fundamental injustice. What should we do? Moralistic religion works on the principle, I obey, therefore God accepts me. The gospel works on the principle, I am accepted by God through Christ, therefore I obey. These are two radically different, even opposite dynamics. And because they obey for radically different reasons, they produce radically different results, different kinds of character in the person. One produces anger and joyless compliance, security, insecurity, and a condemning spirit. The other, slowly but inevitably, produces contentment, joy, humility, poise, and a forgiving spirit. Without knowing the difference between general religiosity and the true gospel, people will constantly fall into moralism and elder brother faith. If you call younger brothers to receive Christ and live for Him without making this distinction clear to them, they will automatically think that you are inviting them to become elder brothers. We have to be loving and tender in identifying elder brother tendencies in each of us, in each other, just as Jesus does. Note, He's talking to the men He knows will kill Him, and He's telling them that they are lost, that they fundamentally misunderstand God's salvation and purpose in the world. But at the same time, He's also being very loving and tender. Note also that this is a bold challenge. The father coming out to the older brother is Jesus pleading with His enemies. He's lovingly urging them to see their fatal error and come into the Father's love. On the cross, instead of blasting His enemies, Jesus lovingly took the penalty of their sins on Himself. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. He did it for me, He did it for us, gladly, as an example, to drain us of our self-righteousness and insecurity. That, my friends, takes away both the pride and the fear that makes us into elder brothers. If you identify the younger brother in yourself, now is a good time to run home and meet the Father who is out looking for you. If you are the elder brother who has lost excitement and can recognize the coolness in your relationship with the Father, even resentment at your younger brother, now is the time to come back home too. Jesus leaves an open question. How will you respond to it? Take down the heavy burden and let Jesus lead you back home to joy. I look at the Rembrandt painting and I resolve that I shall not be an onlooker in my Father's house. I shall keep exploring, but my true brother is lovingly waiting if I miss the way. I labor alongside Christ as a beloved Son of God, and I see His delight and joy. I will continue to help from the Spirit. I will continue with help from the Spirit to grow as a light post in the image of the Father, radiating His love and not judgment. If you are walking the same path of love and compassion, whether you are a man or a woman, every day is Father's Day. I wish you a joyful Father's Day. Want to hear more about the Father? Join us next week. Our Pastor Adrian will be talking about that. I cherish a chance to pray through these and other issues with you tonight at 8 p.m. if you attend Crofton Baptist Church. Details for joining our Zoom prayer meeting are in the church newsletter. Please come. If you've never come, it's not intimidating, it's good. Come. As we close today, I invite you to a moment of silence as we hear again the reassuring words of the Father, and then sing out with me a song of the Prodigal Son, who has been rescued by the true brother and returns home to a delightful father. It's a song I cannot sing, never sing with dry eyes. I stand amazed in the presence of Jesus the Nazarene, and I wonder how he could love me, a sinner condemned unclean. That's me, a sinner saved, but secure in the love of Christ. Thank you very much.